This is its masterpiece. They've never been better than this.
Siren sounds. The Hawks have won 3 premierships in a row. 13, 14, and now 15 for these magnificent Hawks.
For the 6th straight year, a top 4 finish for the Hawks, and their leaders are with us at the desk. Coach Alistair Clarkson, Captain Luke Hodge, congratulations and welcome.
Thanks, boys. Pleased to be here.
The biggest debating point in footy at the moment is how are the Hawks entering this final series. Give us your expert eye take on it.
Oh, it's reasonably basic. We've been trotting out the same line all year. We have a clear goal at the start of the year to finish top 4, and we've been able to achieve that. In actual fact, we've won 17 games this year, which is a game further than what we were able to progress in the home and away last season. So, we've been able to inject a lot of youth into our footy club this year. Some because we need to in terms of the future of our club. Some through adversity to injuries to some tall players in particular. So that's given us a really good look at some of our younger players and an opportunity to sort of track forward 2 or 3 years in terms of what our side might look like in the years to come. But that has also meant that we've probably been a little bit more inconsistent than what we've been in past years, and our depth has been more around youth than it has been with some guys in past years. We've had the depth of our club has usually been a 50 or 60 or 80 game player that's come into the side, so that makes a significant difference to your side. So we've got good depth. We've got a couple of injuries to a couple of big fellas, but by and large we've got a good squad of players to select from. We've got a opportunity in a qualifying final and double chance, which what we set out to achieve at the start of the year. So that's a different ball game in September, and that's what we're gearing our efforts towards now.
Is it too simple to say, Al, that experience does count for a couple of % at this time of the year?
I just know that our group, having been there, we quite often speak to our senior players in particular about them being an extension to the coaching group out on the ground. I think we've seen that with so many of our guys. Hodgie is the captain of that group, but Mitch is the previous captain of the team as well. But Sean Burgoyne, who could have quite easily been a captain of Port Adelaide at some point in time, has been a real elder and the leading statesman of our footy club in so many areas. And Frawley, who was in a leadership group at Melbourne, the depth of that type of leadership at our club is a real strength, and we call on that. The coaching staff can't direct everything from up in the coaching box. We need guys down on the ground doing that, and we feel like that is a significant advantage for our side. We think that Geelong are also, who are our opponents in the first final, they've also got that real depth of experience too. So whilst we marvel at it at our footy club and value it enormously, there's some of the other sides in the comp that have got it too, in particular our first opponents.
Are you still as loud at 32 than you were at 28 when it comes to leadership on the field, or are you starting to quieten down a little bit?
I'm still very vocal out there, but I think what helps in that situation is, as Clarko said, we've got a wide spread of blokes who are doing the talking out there, where if you go back 4 or 5 years when I first started being captain, there probably wasn't that many blokes out there talking. So we've been able to recruit a lot of blokes in, but it's also been the development and the maturity.
Who are some of, see, from outside we'd say, right, as Clarko said, there's Mitchell, Sean maybe not as loud as others, but Deeds, yourself, I think they're the obvious ones. What about the not so obvious who have really sort of lifted in the last, say, 44 games of footy?
You could even look back as much as Brendan Whitecross played half-back on the weekend, and he was as loud as anyone out there, helping blokes, setting blokes up. You look at the fact that Ruffy's not in the forward line this year, but then you've got Poplow and Gunston and Bruce that are help set up and organise everyone else. So the fact that the guys have been together for so long, it doesn't take much to either get eye contact or a little bit of voice to put someone in the right position.
In the close finishes that you've experienced this year, in the coaching box, is it all out of your control in those moments, and you're seeing if what you've practiced and rehearsed and instructed actually gets carried out? Yeah, listen, nothing ever goes perfectly to plan in those situations. You've got 36 players on the ground. Yep. There's going to be chaos. It's a chaotic game, the most chaotic game in the world. So not everything's going to go perfectly all the time, but it's probably more chaotic up in the box actually than it is down on the ground, strangely enough. The guys have been through those types of situations, and sit there and say there's a little bit of luck involved in it, but it just can't be
total coincidence that Hawthorn's been able to win a lot of those close games. It really comes down to us doing the right thing most of the time in those types of situations, and we're enormously proud of that. It's allowed us to finish top 4. I think there's 6 really close finishes this year, and if we'd have lost even half those games, we're at risk of even making the 8, let alone getting into a top 4 position. So, it's a thing that we've had to work on enormously in terms of the depth of our leadership and the encouragement of our players to take ownership of the decision making on the ground, and it makes it a little bit easier for us as coaches not to try to dictate things from upstairs.
Can I have a discussion about the 4th flag? It's so far away right now. It's only 5 weeks, but it's so far away in terms of winning it. Lee Matthews, I think, brought up the possibility of Brisbane winning a 4th at 3/4 time in the preliminary final. That's sort of local legend has that. Do you have to decide when that is mentioned as a motivation factor for the players, or do you have to mention it at all? Is it too far away now to mention it?
Yeah, someone asked me a question in the press conference leading into the weekend's game. Do you talk to your players about the consequences of a win or a loss and this sort of stuff? The players are no dummies. They know what's going on, and so to say that that at some point in time the players won't have given some sort of thought to the history attached to this campaign would be foolish. But at the same time, are we trying to build our whole campaign around that? No way. It's all about the here and now. At some point in time, it'll probably get mentioned, but that would be at the time where you need to draw on it at 3/4 time in what could be your last quarter for the year. You better pull something out now, boys. Otherwise, it's all gone. But by and large, we haven't got it in our plans to use that as motivation for us to try to secure a flag. It's more around the opportunity, the excitement of just being able to play some great footy at this time of the year. The grass is greener, the weather's a little bit better. Opportunity for some teammates who haven't had that opportunity to play in a premiership before, of which we've got some young blokes, as well as a guy like Whitecross who has been on our list for a fair period of time, but through misfortune in a lot of instances just hasn't been able to be there at the right time of the year. So some of those things are motivating our players, I think, more so than the...
Poor bugger, he's tackle and then hand on the ball in the goal square, which was almost a game turner, got sort of robbed away from it a little bit because of Fitzpatrick and Poppies and your little kick forward in the last quarter. Stole a little bit of limelight off him, because that then from Brendan Whitecross in that goal square was that exactly what Brendan Whitecross does as a footballer.
Yeah, I think externally it gets overlooked, but not internally. Fitzy kicked the goal, and a lot of the media hype was about Fitzy in his goal. But internally, you go back and you look at things that your teammates did, the desperate acts, and definitely the players notice Whitey's tackling, his desperation in the defensive 50.
What's he brought, Brendan Whitecross? Sorry, Jerry. What's he brought? He's been around the club. He's had to battle with injury to get him back in, and he looks sort of cumbersome a little bit at times. You've stuck with him. And then to do what he did in that moment last week, which sort of changed the game, you must be just so pleased.
We've stuck with him, but he's stuck with us too. He probably had an opportunity at the end of last year. He was a free agent. He's a free agent again into this year too, but he probably had an opportunity to explore, as a Queensland boy. He could have quite easily said, "Listen, it hasn't worked out well for me here. Time to move on." And that was the same with Shellmakers. Shellmakers, the year before last, end of 2014, was in that situation: will I go or will I stay? And that's the culture that we've tried to create and indoctrinate into all of our players when they come to the club. It's try to invest in something and be there for the long haul. It doesn't always work out that way. There's opportunities where guys go as a free agent. People talk about, Hawthorn's just raped the free agent system. We've had many more free agents go to other clubs, and including one who's nearly the most marketable player in the game, if he isn't, in terms of Buddy. Xavier Ellis, Tom Murphy, Campbell Brown. There's a whole list of them. Matty Suckling goes to the Bulldogs. We've had a whole host of players that have gone out of our footy club. That's that happens from time to time. That's the nature of the game that we're in. We might have the same situation with Brad Hill at the end of the year, who knows? But what we do know is that when they're at our footy club, we embrace them. We try to get them to invest in the team and the program, and hopefully as a result of that they get enormous benefit that would, for someone like a Whitey, getting that opportunity to lift the cup and really galvanise him as a genuine Hawthorn player is measured by probably premiership success in a sense, given the history of our club and what they've been able to do over the last 50 years. And he, more than most players that have been through the doors of our footy club, deserves to lift that cup at some point.
There's your motivation.
Yeah. So, Luke, as we finished it, and a bit on what Alistair said before, do you acknowledge the magnitude of the opportunity that you've opened up for yourselves over the next 5 weeks?
I guess you look back at past experiences and every time you get to a final series, it's an exciting occasion. As we said, there's some blokes that haven't been able to play in finals yet, and that's our job as older guys, to try and guide them through it and give as much advice as we can. But when you've had some terrible losses, 2011 and 12 in finals, you don't take it for granted. So we know that if you play well enough for the next month, things might fall your way, but there's a lot of hard work still to go.
Good luck. We'll all be watching. We'll see.
Thanks for coming in.
And Luke Hodge with us on AFL 360 after the break.